Welcome back, guys, to another Couchy. So today we're going to shoot some aliens, but we're not going to be Lieutenant Ellen Ripley.
And if you think dogs can't rap, we will change our mind tonight, so stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Woof woof. Hello guys and welcome back. We are back for another set of old and moldy games. We hope that you had a great week, exactly as usual, and we hope that you had a great week. So now let's start right off with the first game of the night, and we're going to be talking about Alien Breed 3D from 1995. This was for the Amiga CD32, and it was developed by Team 17 and published by Ocean Software. Now, the fourth installment of the Alien Breed series came in a slightly different genre as its predecessors. Now, instead of the top-down shooter we were used to see, Team 17 tried to give it a go at the FPS genre that had been booming since the early 90s. Now, we all know that Doom by id Software was a landmark in the genre, and it's probably still today, several decades later, the game that spawned the biggest amount of clones in its entire lifespan. I mean, this game is still spawning clones, sometimes still even to this day.
Yeah,
although
that's true.
Exactly. And although Alien Breed 3D is nothing more than another one of those, its attachment to the original series and the game that came out of the huge limitations of the C32 had, it's probably why it made it so successful. The fact that despite it was just a clone, it was still, a decently scored game and a decently appreciated game. Alongside with the release for the CD32, it was also made available for the Amiga 1200 and 4000. However, it was only the CD32 version that included the amazing audio CD soundtrack that came up with this game. Over 16 levels, all of them filled with nasty creatures that obviously want to kill you. You will have to contain the aliens that were bred in laboratory and accidentally let loose. Everything can either be picked up or blown up. So this game is kind of like the kleptomaniac arsonist dream come true, because you can like blow up barrels and make them.
Those are fun. Those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun, exactly. Yeah. Despite its very low resolution graphics that were possible for the Amiga back then, it's not so much about the visuals but more about the action, the suspense, and the plenty of fun gameplay, topped up by the crisp and fitting various audio samples used for the sound effects. So there was a lot of time spent on this game, into producing some of the sound effects that came up with it that were really well digitized. So it was almost like a sound blaster experience here, although quite different in some other areas. But talking about what made this game unique, something that the Doom engine was not capable of, and when Doom was launched actually, was that it had its maps, that this game had its maps, it had various levels of depth with platforms and level above each other, which was something that Doom engine could not do, and obviously the game Doom could not actually reproduce on that. So there's quite of a pat on the back for Team 17 for actually being able to do so. Overall, the game was praised by reviewers and fans alike, but in my opinion, as I said, I believe that this had a lot more to do with the connection with the series that was so popular, as well as for the absolute showmanship of programming skills in such a limited hardware. However, the absolute truth is that we were seeing very clearly here the limitations of the Amiga, and ultimately one of the reasons for its downfall, for not being able to keep up with what was available in the market at that time, considering that extremely powerful hardware like, for example, the PlayStation 2 had just made its debut 1 year earlier. So again, a game that, follows up on the, the Alien Breed series, or at least, brings it another installment. I don't personally consider it a successor of Alien Breed. I mean, pretty much you could just grab any other game from any other genre and say that it was an Alien Breed successor if you put, aliens there and put some sound samples that, remind yourself of the original games. I don't really think about that. I think that this was just another attempt at the Doom clone. It had some really nice features that were not in the Doom game whatsoever, but again, not really something that I really enjoy that much, but you know, it needs to be mentioned here, considering that we already talked about Alien Breed before. I didn't play this game actually at its original launch. I didn't have a 1200 nor a 4000, nor a CD32 for that matter, because it was very little. I mean, it was very less popular in Portugal. I don't think that I remember seeing
it was a very rare system here.
Anyone that bought a CD32, because by then I believe we already had the PlayStation, we already had the Sega Saturn, and so on. But again, it's a game that deserves its place on the couch. It's still another one. It's one of those games that I played on emulation, not on original hardware. So I was able pretty much to emulate any Amiga that I wanted. So I went for the best that I could. But still, you know, the processing power of these computers was not that great, and thus it was not being able to do what other competitors were doing, especially the PCs in this case, that were kind of like the biggest competitors of the Commodore Amiga. But yeah, that's it for this game. Blade, so what you have for us today as our second game of the night?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about an uncommon system in the couch so far, but it has to be far more common because it was very popular. I'm going to talk about a PlayStation game, and this was a really cool one.
Oh, okay. Which one?
Parappa the Rapper. You probably know this one.
The rapper dog.
The dog that raps.
The dog. Yeah, no, which is quite common these days.
The dog.
Calling someone dog.
Yeah. You know, this game came out in '96 in Japan, came out in '97 in Europe and the US. Well, it wasn't exactly a big difference because it came out in late December in Japan, so it came out like 3 months later here. So this game was rather simple in concept. This was a rhythm game, and you have this very complex story. You have this paper-thin dog called Parappa, and he was trying to prove himself to this paper-thin flower called Funny Sunny.
You mean Eminem from Wish?
Basically. Yeah, basically, yeah. So, and you had this master that taught you how to rap, like a karate master, but he taught you how to rap. This doesn't make a lot of sense, but this was it. You know, the game was pretty simple. You had these characters just playing this music and have this rhythm, and on top of the screen you would have this line, and you'd have like this timer just going from left to right, and the buttons you had to press would just show in the correct time, and you would just have to press it at that moment, and you would be rated from bad to really good. This was it. It was really simple, but the funny thing about this game is the graphics looked really great at the time, because you were like dancing and rapping with pieces of paper, because when they turned around they were really pieces of paper. You didn't have a full character. But it looked really cool.
I remember this game. I'm going to tell you, I'm really honestly about it. I've never played this game, and obviously my connection with the consoles is very little. But I remember seeing something about this game, and I always felt that this was like a kid's game and not exactly an adult game, let's say.
No, it was really fun. It was a rhythm game. What can you ask of a rhythm game?
I get it, but I wasn't really, looking at it this way, that it would be such a, a game that I would pick for myself. So obviously, I mean, never picked any interest to it, but I definitely know the title, and I know there was a dog in it, so that's pretty much what I mentioned. That's what I know about it. But no, I didn't have that. I thought that this was more for juvenile audiences rather than just for adults. But I don't know. You played
game at some point. It was really cool. Yeah, it was addictive.
Okay. Well, again, never really, tried this game.
Give it a go. So, I think this game was remastered actually, so you could probably grab it and play it.
All right. So you guys check it out. See if it was remastered, since we can't do our homework and check it ourselves. So you guys do it for us. So.
I don't think so. I know so. No, it was actually remastered on the PlayStation 4 in 2017. Just keeping the suspense. You just ruined it. And you have a PlayStation 4, so you have to try it now.
Yeah, I was trying to throw you guys.
You were trying to throw me under the bus, and it failed.
Yeah, exactly, and I failed.
You crashed the bus.
So let's not talk about failure today. Today, I feel a really special love for the Amiga, and I'm gonna bring another Amiga game
like this one, right?
This one. Yes. Today, I mean, that machine over there was part of so many hours of my childhood, or not childhood, but teenage days, let's say. or early teenage days when I was maybe 12 to 14 to 15, something like that. And although I really already had the PC back then, I really had a really great time with the Amiga, and there's so many games. And here's another one that I remember that I absolutely thought I would never remember this game again, but I remembered about it. So I'm going to talk about Walker from 1993 for the Amiga, and this was developed by DMA Design and published by Cyanosis. So Walker is a side-scrolling shooter where we control a bipedal mech that will wreak havoc throughout several conflicts that happen or will happen on Earth at different points in time. There's not a lot of background story to it, about the game's plot. In fact, the original manual, and I was able to get this this information from a really cool Amiga website that just basically has reviews about, from back then, from the magazines of the Amiga back then. And they said that the manual of the game was just a single sheet of photocopied paper with the controls on it. So there's nothing about those complex manuals that usually give you the backstory about it and stuff like that. Yeah. No, there's nothing as such. And so, as I was saying, as time traveling is involved in the 4 stages of Walker, each one of them corresponds to a past and allegedly future events, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, the first stage is set in Berlin during the World War II, and then we move to the city of Los Angeles. Not, really sure about why the greatest conflicts of the U.S. are always in LA or in this country, but okay, but that's just my doubt. The third stage is set in the Middle East. Once again, nothing new here for conflicts, because apparently there seems to be a very well explored part of the world about conflicts. And the fourth at last is somewhere around the year 2420 on Earth in a place unknown. So it's about predicting the future and some of the events that happened in the past. As for the gameplay, it's quite pleasant. I just love these games where they brought in the usage of the Amiga mouse in it. And the movement, the question here is that the movement of the mech is controlled by the keys. You can go left and right with the mech with the keys, but the aiming reticle that is controlled by the mouse. This provided so much more accuracy, but at the same time, that the developers, because of that, they toned the game so that you wouldn't have such a great time or such an easy time for that. So again, the mouse brought some accuracy, which is good, and some new things that we prefer nowadays, especially on the FPS shooters, because we need the mouse to aim more accurately, obviously, but here it was not that common. So the Amiga developers, or the Team 17 developers, sorry, not the Team 17, the DMA Design developers actually brought up this mechanic to make it more interesting. Now, our HUD, or heads-up display, shows a shield meter which acts as our HP, as well as the temperature of the guns that, if overheat, they stop shooting. At the end of each level, there is a boss that needs to be defeated to advance to the next level. So again, nothing new here, kind of like the arcade experience that we are, used to. Going back to the difficulty part I was just mentioning. Now, if you remember this game and you played it back then, I'm sorry to tell you that there is absolutely no way you've got to level 3 without being an absolute god. And if you tell me you finished all the 4 levels, I will immediately tell you that you cheated. Because, oh my god, I mean, this game is an absolute hell to beat. And I clearly remember that on rare occasions I would get to the level 2. Going more than halfway through level 2 was just damn near impossible. I mean, the game it's terrible at all levels. It's terrible, I mean, in the sense of difficulty.
You were just bad at it.
No, I wasn't, and believe me, that one of the things I read on these reviews from back in the day, that's also mentioned there, about the difficulty of the game. So again, it's not just me, this is a real thing. I don't just...
So this was the Dark Souls back then, right?
Well, I don't know if it was Dark Souls back then, but it was definitely difficult. But again, we also already talked about that here. Some of the games back then were really, really difficult because there was not a lot of content that you could put in. So you needed to increase the difficulty. So with just 4 levels, you can understand that the difficulty exponentially increases from one to the other. Now, a few interesting details about Walker is that this game had its development started in 1989 by DMA Design founder David Jones, right after the release of Blood Money. If you remember, it's another side-scrolling shooter, kind of like R-Type, the likes of that. But it was completely scratched a few months later, in the beginning of 1990, since David was not able to make the design and the animation come along. A few months later, he actually Jones decides to hire Ian Dunlop and Neil Glancy that had some experience with other games like The Terminator and Akira, using assets from Blood Money, and the inspiration for the movement of the foot soldiers that come on this game came from another very cool game called Lemmings. So actually, Neil Glancy and Ian Dunlop, when they developed this, they used some of those assets, and they also inspired themselves on the movement of the lemmings to actually make these foot soldiers. If you play the game, you will notice that the movement of them is quite similar, and it's very funny to see that kind of Easter egg, showing up in a game like this. Another one of those games that, unfortunately being for the Amiga, does not have any, digital, releases available at any point. Even with the Amiga, the Mini that is coming to, that came out already, I believe. Even there, I don't think we're gonna find this game, anyways. But so you guys know what to do. Uncle Google to the rescue.
Google
is
a friend.
Quite nice game. I really love the mechanics, the control mechanics, and I think that if you guys want to try this out, emulation is your friend, that you can do it. But this is one of those games that it's going to keep you there for a while. Even I played it recently, I don't know, maybe a week ago or something like that, and the game is still very challenging. Although with save states now, everything is easier, right?
It's
you just
easy,
save it and then start again. Which is, I mean, okay, it's a way to go through it using more modern, technologies. But it's a decent game, a very good one that you should try.
It's just a
really
different
nice.
type of cheat codes.
Exactly, save states are a less cheating cheat, let's say.
Yeah,
we could say that. All right. So what do you have for us next, Blade? For us before we go down to the ending.
Go down episode. In glory.
In glory, exactly. So what you're going to talk about?
We have an air freshener. I'm not going to use this one because this game is so fresh. It actually came out last week.
It's so fresh that if it was a chicken, it would be eating your salad.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It came out on the 14th October 2021, and it's a game called the Riftbreaker.
That was like what, 5 days ago, 6 days ago?
Yeah, it was basically last week. I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
So I had this game on my watch list on GOG when I saw it, and I just said, this game looks promising. So I added it to my wish list, and I got an email from GOG saying the game was out, and I was like, okay, I need to go take a look at this. Then I was pleasantly surprised it was on Game Pass on the PC and on the Xbox.
And you no longer need to buy it.
No, I got it installing on the Xbox and the PC, and I tried it on the PC, and I have to tell you, I wasn't expecting this game to be this addictive.
Okay.
If you've played Factorium, you will understand a bit of this game, but it's not the same thing, not even close. Well, in this game you play this mech on an alien planet. You need to colonize and get resources for the human race to restore itself to, well, a survival state. Well, it's not actually required at that point, and you'll understand that along the way, but you land there on this robot. You have this pilot there called Ashley, that's your main character, and you just land there and you start establishing a base. The only moving unit you have is yourself. You move around like an action game. You have different kind of weapons. You can develop new weapons, improve your weapons, the armor. You get a machine gun and a sword at start and a big blaster, and you can develop new weapons after and just load them up on your mech. You can explore with it, you can mine with it, you can destroy whatever you find along the way and get the materials to use for yourself. This is the basic moving part, and you have the enemies. That's the wildlife in the planet, and some of them are really bad. And at first you start with this very small base, and you will start growing and learning the game and develop new technologies. You don't develop them, you actually connect to Earth and download the schematics so you can evolve, but it's the research in this game. And you have to start setting up the base, setting up defense, and then keep expanding it and setting mining spots like you're building a huge factory. and all your defenses are like a tower defense because you only have automated defense systems. The only moving defense system you have is yourself. You can set up walls, you can set up these higher levels, so you can go up and shoot outside the walls with your character. And I mean, you just really have to play this one to enjoy it, because at first I played it for like 10 minutes. It was weird, so I restarted the game and I said, okay, let's start it fresh, now I understand the dynamics. And it's really addictive. It's really cool. Once you start getting into it and learning how the whole game works, you just can't let go of it. And
looking
it's
at
really
it,
fun.
I think the funny, or not the funny part about it, I think that the interesting part about this, or the addictive, is that it kinda, or if I see it correctly, kinda mixes the elements of kinda like, not, third-person shooter when you are walking around with the mech and, shooting stuff and, aliens that look like Zergs or something like that.
Yeah,
but then you
exactly.
use this mech. But then you use this mech also for the development of the base, right? And building structures,
the
setting up
construction and everything.
defenses.
And you can even go to mining spots, and if you have mines established there, you can actually use the robot itself to mine and to prospect new resources. It's really cool. The game is really well done.
I think that's exactly. I think that's exactly the point here that makes this very, very interesting. And by looking at it, I mean, first of all, the graphics are gorgeous. I mean, it
looks really good.
The landscapes are so beautifully designed. There's a lot of colors used, like not the normal colors you'd see, but they vary along with all the planets that you are into, depending on the scenarios. But then, I mean, the part where you just go in melee, or you have this big machine gun and you shoot like,
it's so
aliens
cool.
coming.
No, and you can have
meters
two machine
away.
guns, one in each hand, and use both at the same time.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so cool. You'll just see the ammunition go down like crazy.
For free, I don't think that there's a lot of things that we can say about this game.
No, if you have Game Pass, just play this one.
If you guys have Game Pass, it's just a nick in the dollar. Just go for it and just play it, because it looks absolutely incredible. I did see this on the upcoming, but I looked at it, and for the short trailer that I've seen, it looked a lot more like just another RPG or another strategy game, rather than actually mixing these two together, which is very, very interesting.
It almost looks like a run and gun the first time you see
exactly,
it.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Run and gun style, and that I do like a little bit more than strategy games. I've played some of them, but obviously I do like these genres more than that. On the other hand, what I do like, and what you guys should like and we like, is likes, of course. Of course. So guys, as you always know, leave a like if you like, leave a dislike if you didn't like, subscribe our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we're going to put up next. As you know, every Wednesday we have the English couch episodes, we have on Fridays our Portuguese episodes, and I'll say that we hope to see you next week again here. For those who watch both of the episodes, we would like to see you Friday also. But as we usually say, thank you very much for watching, and game on, guys.
See everyone next week. Have fun and game on.